To another exciting episode of Discover Feng Shui with Joey Yap. In today's program, we're going to talk about Feng Shui for education. Now, before we move on to Feng Shui for education, let's recap what we done last week. Last week, we talked about Feng Shui for health, and in case you missed out on how we talk about health issues, remember, go on to joeyyap.com, download some of these notes, and catch up on what you've missed out so far. Now, today we're going to talk about education. So how do we actually start with our Feng Shui analysis? We always start by analyzing the environment. So of course, today the subject matter is this particular house that I've selected, and I've already pre-measured it. It actually faces south. Now, before we go into measure, you might be wondering, how come when we talk about Feng Shui for education, we don't go inside and measure the study room? Now, of course, we will do that only at the end, because the first thing you got to do is always, when you want to check the Feng Shui of a property, you must check the external environment. If the external environment is positive, most of the time you already have positive chi entering into your property. If the external environment is negative, you got to find out how you can fine-tune that so that you will receive positive chi into the property before you can use. Now remember, in Feng Shui, it's very important that in order for you to activate any so-called good luck in the house, you must first have the good chi that comes from the external into the internal of the property. So that's why we've got to start from the external. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the so-called green dragon and white tiger. These are just terminologies to describe the left and right, and the red phoenix is the front of the property. Now, towards the left, the so-called green dragon of the property, you will see this particular mountain. Okay, now most of the time people don't notice these hills. This hill, and beyond that you see the apartments. The apartments is built on top of the hills. Now, if you look in the context of this house, when the house faces south, looking outwards, this hill is actually in the southeast. Now, if you look at this Lo Shu Chan on the southeast sector, you see number 4. Number 4, Sun Hua, actually is one of in the study of Feng Shui, Man Chong Sing. So if you have a good mountain formation in this section, it actually helps support this particular star that actually supports educational luck in the house. Now, before we go into the house, we must see what is opposite the house that affects the Feng Shui. So looking on beyond the house. Now, ordinarily, if you look at this scene here, this is just directly opposite the house. What do you see? Now, to an untrained eye, probably it looks like it's just a very good view. It's supposed to be good Feng Shui. However, if you look, the gap between two buildings, you see the gap between two buildings actually, this is what we call in Chinese terminology, Feng Shui terminology, Lak Feng Sat. This gap here actually pierces Sa Chi straight into this particular house. So there's actually a negative feature. So of course, this is the first consideration when you talk about the house's Feng Shui. You must see if the external environment is whether it is causing negative chi or positive chi. So now that you know that there's one problem, you can see whether the house have any specific solutions that we can actually place or no need to place. How do you dissipate the negative chi? So let's move on into the house. Going into the house, the first thing normally people will say, hey, you know, what about this number? This 98 is a good number. Now, this is another misconception in Feng Shui that I wish to clear up since we have the opportunity to do so today, because numbers actually is only a superstitious belief. Even if it's a number 4, number 14, number 13, it doesn't matter. What matters is what type of direction the property faces, what type of mountain formations you have, the road formations, the angles of the house, receiving or not receiving the chi from the external environment. Always remember that.